Hey, what's up guys? Jerome here from the Bonsai Supply, and if this is your first time coming across this channel and you like bonsai, you are in luck because that's what this channel is all about. Now if you like our content, please consider subscribing to this channel so that you're always notified when a new video comes out. Now if you're a subscriber already, welcome back and thank you so much for your support. Alright, so in today's video we are going to be talking about forest bonsai creations. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about the tree that I have here with me today, which is a Bald Cypress Forest that I created about 3 years ago from just little cuttings. So we're going to talk more specifically on how it was created in terms of like how it was potted. We're also going to be talking about why I chose Bald Cypress as a species for this creation. So we're going to be talking about the repotting process, care and maintenance, and as well, what are some of the next steps for this tree? Like, what does the future hold for this composition? Where am I going with this? So without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, so this bonsai forest was created for our book. It's called Freestyle Bonsai, and we have a section in there where we show step by step with pictures on how a certain style is created. And so that's what this forest was used for, to create and show you how that style is created step by step. And so the way that we did this is, first off, we made sure that we had the trees, of course, and the tray and the soil ready to go. And then we set up the tray first. So we used screens, we covered the drainage holes with the screen, and then we built a little frame out of bamboo sticks. But you can also use like chopsticks or anything like that, like little wooden sticks to build a frame. And I compare it to like a concrete frame, like when you pour concrete, you build like a little frame like this before you pour the concrete. Same idea here. And the reason why we built this frame is so that we can freely choose where we want the trees to be. If you don't have that frame, it's a little more challenging because you're a little more restricted. You cannot freely choose where to place them, or it's a little more difficult. But with this frame, you can freely choose and you can tie down the trees exactly where you want them to be. So I thought that came in quite handy when we created this forest. Next up, we reduced the root ball and then we placed the trees in the tray. And when you create a forest, you always want to place the trees first before you tie them down. Look at the composition from every angle, make sure that you really like the way that the trees are placed, and then go ahead and tie them down. Once they were tied down, we filled in the entire tray with our all-purpose bonsai soil mixture. And then we went ahead and thoroughly watered the tree. And we watered it thoroughly. And now after creating a composition like this, it is important to keep it above freezing, but also keep it away from the wind. So once the temperatures were steady above freezing, with the wind started to die down, we took this composition, moved it out into full sun, and then just kept it there. Now, the next point is about repotting, and I get a ton of questions all the time. Hey Jerome, how do I repot a forest? Do I repot them as individually trees or as a unit? And the answer is this: if you like the way that your composition is, like I really like this composition, how the trees are placed, I will repot this as one tree, one unit. But if I say over the years like, oh, I don't really like anymore how this tree is placed, it needs to be rearranged. So then I would take a knife and I would actually cut it kind of like a cake slice out of this section of the forest and move this tree somewhere else and rearrange it. But all in all, you would want to repot this as one unit. So in creating a forest bonsai tree, I think it's very important to keep the mood of the composition in mind. So what I wanted to create here was a composition that I would see in Florida a lot of times when I would drive like on Alligator Alley, and I would see these cypress domes on either side of the highway. And that's kind of the mood that I wanted to set. Like when I drove past there, I always got that feel of like vacation feel, warm, tropical, but also a lot of elegance. Like the trees there were not necessarily really big and masculine. They were more on the feminine side, I thought, and like slender and tall. And so that's kind of the mood that I wanted to set for it. And that's why it's also in a brown dish, because we have that murky water there that's surrounding the cypress domes. And so that's what I wanted to recreate. Maybe I'll add in a little alligator down the road. And so that's why I chose Bald Cypress to create that mood. But also the reason why I chose Bald Cypress is because they change throughout the seasons. Like in the spring right now, the foliage is light green. In the summer, it turns to a darker green. In the fall, you get to enjoy the fall color, like that rusty fall color that's really beautiful. I really enjoy that actually. And then throughout the winter, you get to enjoy the winter silhouette. So there's change throughout the year. But also, what is important to me is that like bald cypresses, they grow in nature as forests, but they also grow as freestanding trees. So I think that's also important to keep in mind, to choose a species that grow as a forest in nature, because it will help along the credibility of the design or the creation that you're creating. I also chose it because it has smaller leaves, and I think the leaves of the bald cypress, like that feathery look, is one of my favorites. It gives that elegant feel to it. And since I wanted to keep this tree composition on the smaller scale, and I know that I can reduce these leaves over time, I thought this was a great species. But of course, something to keep in mind as well, you want to use a species that easily adapts to change and can grow in shallow pots, because forests, they look best when they are grown in a shallow container or like a slat. And now here are a few tips on bonsai forest creations. So the first tip that I like a lot is that you want to use uneven numbers. So you want to use maybe 3, maybe 5, 7, 9, 11 trees. Just use uneven or odd numbers. And then also a forest less than 5 trees is a grouping in my opinion, which is still cool, creating a grouping of trees. And then if you use 5+ trees, that becomes a forest. Now you want to keep in mind that you want to add some flavor when you create this, right? Like I talked about setting the mood of the forest. So you want to have them spaced out. And for me, when I looked at the composition from the front, I wanted to have a tree that's a little hidden, that maybe, as you look through the forest, you discover that tree a little bit more, which is this tree over here, which is a little more hidden. And so I wanted to create that mystery. Now you also want to have, which doesn't apply for this forest quite yet, but it will down the line, you want to have one tree that's the tallest and the strongest and the biggest. And then you want to have a tree that's second in command, third, fourth, and fifth, and so on, because that will create a more mature looking forest. It will create age. Right now, all the trees are about the same thickness, and that's because I started them out when they were all the same size. So I have to decide this year which one of the trees I want to be the tree in command. Which one do I want to be the thickest and the strongest? And also, whichever one of the 5 I choose is totally fine. Whichever one you choose, it will kind of set the direction of the forest. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, also something that I did here with my forest, which I thought was really cool and creative, I have all of my trees on one side of the composition. I wanted to have a lot of negative space over here. I moved all the trees over here because the tray is quite large. And so therefore I thought if I space them out more evenly, there would be too much negative space in between the trees and it wouldn't quite look attractive. So that's why, this over here could be the swamp maybe, this could be the highway where I drove past and I looked at the cypress dome. There's many different ways to look at this forest. So that's why I moved them all over to this side. I wanted to have a smaller forest with less trees. And this composition, I wanted it to be short as well. So I wanted to make it look more powerful. Now, last but not least, I wanted to share with you the next steps for this composition. So I will leave it in this pot for probably an additional 2 years. It's quite a large tray to fill out. I want the root system to fuse together. I want it to be like a carpet, so when I remove it, it will be one unit. So I just leave it in here before I do any root work. And also this year, I'm going to let the trees freely grow because I want all 5 of them to thicken up. And then probably next year I will have to choose, like I said earlier, I have to choose the tree in charge. I have to choose a main tree. And right now I can't really decide if it's going to be this guy here, which is kind of the middle tree. So that will be the tallest and the thickest part, which will create the tree direction of being more off-centered. Or I was thinking of having this tree thicken up the most and be the main tree in charge, like right in your face. Oh, here I am, strong. And if this was my main tree, and then second, third, fourth, and fifth, the entire direction of the tree of the composition would lean more towards that side, and it would be more centered. So I haven't quite decided yet which way that I want to go. However, while I'm letting these whips here grow up, I still want to make sure that I maintain the side branches small. So I will cut, once the first flush has hardened off, turned to hardwood, I will start to push the sides back. I want to keep the sides elegant, small twiggy branches, but the center here, the leader, I will let them grow up and thicken up. So that's something to keep in mind. So I work at this together, right? I let one whip shoot up to thicken up the tree, but simultaneously I work on already creating the branch structure. So I can do that at the same time. And that's pretty much it. I don't think I'm going to add any more trees in the future. I think I'm going to keep it as a 5 composition tree. Unless one dies, I would have to replace one. But other than that, I will continue like that. And then hopefully the next time I repot this composition, I can hopefully start to work on raking out the roots and making the root structure a little bit more attractive. But that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward of how I'm going to develop this tree down the road. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video about the creation of this forest. Please let me know what you think about this creation, and if you have any more questions or comments, drop them in the comment section, of course, as well. Now give us a big thumbs up if you happen to like today's video. Also make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you're always informed and up to date when a new video comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.